Hello, Dimlewe. I still don't want to tell you where to get the wig. Do you know the truth is I can't remember between the 2 weeks shop where I buy the wig, but just send me a DM or drop a comment in the comment section and I will check the tag and give you the address where I got the wig. So thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining in, everyone. Hello, JC Jewel. Thank you for joining in. Mary Dude 701. Thank you for joining in. And this is Life's Journey with Benedicta. If you are joining us for the very first time, you are welcome to Life's Journey with Benedicta. We're here live every Saturday on my IG and on my YouTube feed. For the past 2-3 weeks, we've been having serious challenges with our network providers. So when you're downstairs, for whatever reason, I'm unable to connect my YouTube to the available Wi-Fi service, internet service provider. So I've been downloading the video on my IG onto my YouTube every Sunday morning. But you can always go to my YouTube and catch up on all of our previous episodes, okay? And it's also on my Facebook, so you can catch up on either my Facebook platform or on my YouTube platform. So thank you all. Hello. Thank you for joining in. And on today's topic, we are going to be discussing the byproduct the byproduct of polygamy, which is bigamy. Bigamy, I would say, is a byproduct of polygamy. Why are men not accused or prosecuted for bigamy charges in Nigeria? That is for those of you that got married under the Statutory Marriage Act. The Statutory Marriage Act can also be defined as the court marriage. I don't know if all of us right here, we know the difference between getting married according to the Customary Act of Nigeria and getting married under the Statutory Act of Nigeria. There is a big difference. And that is why some Nigerian men will never agree to marry a woman under the Statutory Act because they know the implications. Under the Statutory Act, which is the court marriage, if you should get married to a woman or to a man, you are bound by the laws governing the Statutory Marriage Act to remain monogamous. But should you marry a man under the Customary Marriage Act of Nigeria, you are accepting the rules that comes with that kind of marriage. In the Customary Marriage Act here in Nigeria, our men are allowed to be polygamous should they wish to be. The rights in that marriage is not equitable between the man and the woman. In the Customary Marriage Act here in Nigeria, the man has more rights in that marriage than the woman. So the question now goes to the women. Did you know or would you know the difference between these two marriages and still proceed to marry a man under the Customary Marriage Act alone? Or would you marry the man under the Customary Marriage Act and still proceed to do the statutory marriage contract? What saved me in my previous marriage was that aside doing the customary marriage rights, I went ahead to seal that marriage in the High Court. When you have a High Court marriage, that is the Statutory Marriage Act. It protects you in the sense that should your husband or your wife decide to remarry without dissolving the first contract, marriage contract, he or she has committed bigamy, and he or she is liable to the punishment of the law, which is 7 years imprisonment. We are all yet to hear of a man that has been convicted has been convicted for 7 years because he committed bigamy. We're yet to hear that, and that is because women are not speaking up. Women are not suing their spouses that have committed bigamy, for bigamy. Women are not suing their husbands that have become polygamous for bigamy. So I want you, if you're a woman, to know your right. If you contracted the statutory marriage act with your spouse and he springs up a polygamous surprise, you have the right to sue him for bigamy, should you wish to do that. But unfortunately, we have so many reasons why women do not do that. Because at the end of the day, that case, from what I have seen in the High Court, is going to be torn into shreds. That case is not even going to stand the test of time. But let's play a reverse. My case. I was considered as unfit to be a co-parent. In my petition, when I filed for my divorce, I put it down that I wanted joint custody. I wanted to have joint custody of my children with my ex, because I believe that in every marriage dissolution case, the best interest of the children is what should come first. And I believe that children are entitled to the love of both parents, irrespective of the fact that the marriage did not work. The children should be kept out of it. They should have access to their father. They should have access to their mothers. But unfortunately, here in Nigeria, should a woman choose to remarry, like I did, should a woman choose to move on with her life, you will be denied, in most cases, you will be denied joint custody, you will be denied sole custody. Because, whether we like to believe this or not, the women are facing a bias here in this part of the country. And who are the enablers? The government are the enablers. The judicial system are the enablers. The police, the security agencies are the enablers. The belief that abused women, battered women, should remain in abusive marriages and endure it. And when women have the courage to finally take up a matter like this to the court, they are either going to be delayed to the point where they get to spend all their resources. Like I told you, I saw a lady that was in her 12th year while I was in my 9th year. Sorry, the light went off, just touch that. While I was in my 9th year, while I was in my 5th year in the High Court, awaiting my dissolution of marriage, I saw a lady that was in her, 12th year. So by the time the judicial system drags your dissolution process, you're either going to give up, stop coming to court, and just remarry unofficially, or start living with your new partner without being able to contract another marriage. Because should you get married in the court of law, in the High Court, that is a statutory marriage. Until that marriage is dissolved, you cannot initiate another marriage. So the woman is stuck. She cannot move on with her life completely because the first marriage has been tied down by a long judicial process. So when we find women not being able to speak up, sometimes it's not because they do not know their rights. Sometimes it's not even because they're not financially empowered. Some women are financially empowered. They have what it takes to get legal counsel, to represent them in the court of law. But when they think about the duration, when they think about the stigmatization, when they think about the emotional trauma, the ordeal they have to go through it in the whole cause, they give up. They give up. They either remain in that abusive marriage, start cheating on their spouse, move out, and just move in with a man. Should they find somebody they happen to fall in love with, move in with another man, start making a family without officially tying the knot. It is not easy, right, to be in a witness box where you are being accused of, or you're being called names that you know it is not, it doesn't sum up to be what you are. And that is why I tell people, do not allow another person's opinion of yourself determine who you see yourself to be. Your self-perception, the perception of who you are, should always precede whatever opinion some other person has of you. You can imagine me in the box, my ninth year, while going through my dissolution process. The legal counsel on the other side looked at me and called me an evil woman, a prostitute, all sort of names that are unprintable, simply because I chose to move on with my life instead of waiting for a dissolution process that will span the period of 10 years. I moved on with my life, and I didn't lie under oath. I was bold enough to say it as it is. I told the court why I moved on with my life. I told the court everything there was to be said, and I hid nothing. And there, the counsel looked at me and said, "You are evil. You're a prostitute. You're promiscuous. You don't have what it takes to raise children." That was his opinion of me. Either he intentionally cooked up a wrong opinion of me to create whatever impression he wanted to create. But I had to stay in that witness box, look him in the eye, and I took all the insults, because the perception of self that I have is not the picture that he had painted. So, in as much as I was mad, I was infuriated, I kept my calm. I kept saying to myself, you know yourself. So everything he's saying is of some other person that he has cooked up in his mind. This is not who you are. His opinion of me meant nothing to me, because I knew that everything he had to say was a way of making me look bad as a parent. And what was my crime? My crime was that I chose to move on with my life. I chose not to wait for the 10 years that the dissolution process was going to take. Imagine filing for your divorce at the age of 33. I filed for my divorce at the age of 33, and I was granted the dissolution at the age of 43. I was 43 years old when my divorce came through. So imagine I was sitting down for 10 years waiting for the dissolution to come through before I could remarry, be in a relationship, have a child, whatever it is that you want to do. You cannot allow the system that is biased, a system that is unjust, a system that is unfair to hold your destiny down. Women, we have to get up, we have to speak, we have a voice, we have people that are in the legislature that can help to change this inhumane practice. It is unfair to tie down a man or a woman for 10 whole years, 5 years, 12 years, even 2 years. It is absurd because by implication, what the law is trying to tell you is that if it's going to take 12 years for your marriage to be dissolved, you have to remain celibate for 12 years. In 12 years, you will not be allowed to sleep with a man. You will not be allowed to have S intercourse with a man or a woman. Should you have S intercourse with a man or a woman in the duration of your marriage dissolution, you will be tagged an adulterer. You have committed adultery. So which man or woman can stay celibate for 10 years? Let's tell ourselves the honest truth. Which man or which woman can stay celibate for 10 years? I didn't stay celibate for 10 years while my divorce proceeding was going on, and I didn't lie about it in the court of law. I didn't. But should that warrant a legal practitioner to look at me and call me a prostitute? At a point, I had to tell him, I said, look up the definition of prostitute. I am not one. I am not any of those things that you are saying. And he looked at me, he said, you are bold. You are talking back at me. I said, I am correcting your impression of who you are painting me to be. I am not a prostitute. I am not an adulterer. I chose to move on with my life. Yes, that is what I did. A prostitute can, in the dictionary, can be defined as a woman that has multiple ex-partners. So if you cannot come to the court of law and prove that I have multiple ex-partners, why would you tag me a prostitute? Why would you say that because I chose to move on with my life and start a new family, I do not have the right to parent my own children? By the way, in a dissolution process, the best interest of the children should be paramount. So these children you're talking about, these children in question, they have been in my custody prior to the dissolution. Throughout the entire period of the dissolution, I have been feeding, clothing, catering, schooling, taking care of them. Why don't you bring them to the court of law, which is the usual practice? Usual in the sense that majority of the time in a dissolution process where children custody are required, children that have gotten to a certain age are invited to the courthouse, and the judge would have a word with those children and ask them, who would you like to stay with, your daddy or your mommy? In my case, not even my 18-year daughter was invited to the court of law to be asked, who do you want to stay with? That means the best interest of the children wasn't considered. The only thing they could see was the fact that she has moved on. She didn't wait for this dissolution to come to an end. Therefore, we are denying her joint custody. Therefore, she's an unfit mother. Who does that to a man in the Nigerian judiciary? I'm asking. I'm yet to see any man denied access to his children because he chose to remarry. Look at the clear case of Yul Edochi. Is anybody going to dare to sue him for bigamy, let alone deny him access to his children? Is anybody even calling him an adulterer? Everybody is saying, he's an African man. You know, he's an African man. He did the African thing. He can marry as many wives as he wants. He can become polygamous. He's a grown man. Okay? Yul is a grown man. He can be polygamous. Why are they not calling him an adulterer? Why are we not even talking about the cheating that led to the polygamy? We are all seeing the big picture here. Oh, he's polygamous. African men are polygamous in nature. Are we also discussing the cheating that led to the polygamy? Polygamy doesn't just happen overnight. You don't sleep and wake up and become polygamous. You obviously were cheating with this particular person before the person got pregnant, before you embarked on getting married to this person. So why is he not being called an adulterer, a prostitute, an evil person? Why Is he not being sued for bigamy? Is he going to be denied access to his children? The answer is no. We all know that the answer is no. And we have to change the narrative. A lot of women have gone through what I went through. They have been called all sort of names in the witness box in the course of their marriage dissolution. But they're not going to sit on this chair and tell you about it. They're just going to say, okay, I filed for a divorce, I got my divorce. But are they really going to tell you what it took for them to get this dissolution? They're not going to talk about it. But these are the things we have to talk about. People need to know what women go through in the court of law in order to obtain a dissolution of marriage. And how do we change this narrative? I'm not just telling you the story to entertain you, but I'm telling you the story believing that we will have someone out there that will have the power in the legislature to change these evil practices. These practices that I consider biased, unfair, cruel, inhumane. We need people to change these practices. We need people to help carry out the reforms that are needed in the legal system. Some of these laws that are in our statutory marriage act, they need to be reformed. Some actually need to be abolished, because what the Nigerian men, or rather, what the Nigerian men are doing is that they are looking for loopholes in this system to enslave women. Women are enslaved because of the loopholes that we have in the Statutory Marriage Act. And we can talk all we want from now till the end of time. If these forms are not amended, if some of them are not even abolished and new laws reenacted or new laws enacted, women will continue to suffer. Should they want to file for a dissolution of marriage, they will suffer. Should they choose to remain in a toxic marriage, they will suffer, and some will actually die in those toxic marriages. So what can we do as a society to enable women to come out of toxic marriage? I put up a post sometime earlier on this week saying that in a situation like Yul Edochi's situation, a woman has two alternatives. Either she files for a divorce, or she remains in that same marriage and continue enduring the toxicity. Now, how can we encourage women in a situation like the one we are now seeing with Yul Edochi? How can we encourage women in situations like this to come out? How can we encourage women in situations like this to file for bigamy? How can we encourage women in situations like this to file for a dissolution of marriage and still win custody rights for their children, welfare arrangement taken care of by the cheating spouse? How do we do these things? Some people will come here and say, taste buds. If she has a good lawyer, my dear, leave good lawyers. Oh. The system is biased and has been biased towards women for a very, very long time. So the ratio is 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 women get lucky that they get the justice that they deserve in the court of law. 1 in 10, 2 in 10. The numbers are not balanced. And until these numbers are balanced, or the ratio is balanced, women will not be encouraged to act in their own best interest. We are having these talks. We are doing these shows because we want to enable women to act in their own best interest. If you are on this show and you want to make a contribution, you have something you want to talk about, you can ask to be invited, and I'm going to invite you so you can share your opinions on this. We want to enable women in situations such as this to be able to act in their own best interest. Women that have been surprised, or rather women that have woken up to a polygamous situation. A polygamous situation that by the contract of their marriage, they are not supposed to be experiencing. They signed up for a monogamous union and they are shocked with a polygamous situation. How can women like this be encouraged to act in their own best interest? If you want to contribute, you have
DJ copy now, you go JJ. She her own dog na pet to not begin think nonsense. Not be everybody be like you. Oh yeah. They gonna go taste buds NG. Are they good there now? How do I wave back? Wave me back. Oh yeah. Send request. Oh yeah. What's going on? Hello? No audio. Can't hear you anymore. Let me go and tell her. Sorry guys, I'll be back in a moment. I'm coming back.